pristine laboratory on Orion Station hummed with activity as Dr. Elena Reyes carefully lifted the small crystalline sample from its containment field. The transparent material caught the light, refracting it into 1,000 tiny rainbows that danced across the sterile white walls. Behind the observation glass, 3 alien dignitaries watched with barely concealed impatience. Dr. Reyes knew they were only here as a formality. They think they already understand everything about element 935. The tall, gray-skinned Vasirian ambassador shifted his weight, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of boredom in his species. Dr. Reyes, the ambassador's translator device, conveyed his clicks and whistles into smooth English. The Galactic Union appreciates this demonstration, but we have reviewed Earth's research extensively. Element 935 is merely an efficient energy conductor, useful, but hardly worth this level of diplomatic attention. His upper eyes closed briefly, the Vasirian equivalent of a dismissive smile. Elena placed the crystal back into its containment field with practiced precision. At 42, her dark hair now showed streaks of silver, earned through 15 years of researching the element that had changed humanity's destiny. Ambassador Krell, with respect, I believe there's more to discuss than just its conductive properties. The words were diplomatic, but her tone carried the weight of someone who knew far more than she was revealing. The smallest of the aliens, a blue-skinned Meribian with delicate fins extending from her skull, moved closer to the glass. Unlike her colleagues, Shativa seemed genuinely curious. Your people discovered this element only 30 Earth years ago, yet you've integrated it into almost every aspect of your technology. Our scientists find this surprising. If only they knew how surprising it really was. Elena smiled politely. Humans have always been quick to adapt, Counselor Shativa. She turned to her assistant, Dr. Marcus Chen, giving him the almost imperceptible nod they had prepared for. It was time. In the control room above the laboratory, Admiral William Torres watched the interaction with growing tension. The broad-shouldered military leader had opposed this demonstration from the beginning. They're getting too close, he muttered to General Sarah Harper beside him. Reyes is playing with fire. General Harper's weathered face remained impassive, but her eyes tracked every movement below. Elena knows the limits. The Council needs to see enough to respect us, not enough to understand us. Her voice was calm, but her hands gripped the railing with whitened knuckles. Everything we've built over 3 decades could unravel in minutes if they realize what element 935 truly is. Below, Marcus activated a sequence on his tablet. The lab's lights dimmed as a holographic projection filled the center of the room. It showed the elegant molecular structure of element 935. A seemingly impossible arrangement of atoms that Earth's scientists had studied for decades. As you know, Elena continued, her voice measured and professional, element 935 has remarkable properties. It can store energy with 98.7% efficiency, conduct quantum information without degradation, and enhance neural network processing by orders of magnitude. Standard information. Nothing the aliens hadn't seen in briefings. Ambassador Krell's upper arms crossed, a gesture of impatience. Yes, Dr. Reyes, these properties are precisely why the Galactic Union is willing to negotiate a fair price for mining rights. Your Mars colony has the largest deposit discovered thus far, and we simply wish to establish a mutually beneficial arrangement. The third alien, a massive reptilian Drozek named Vazix, finally spoke. His voice rumbled even through the translator. What the ambassador means, Doctor, is that the Union is growing concerned with Earth's reluctance to share this resource. Some council members view it as potentially destabilizing. And there it is, the threat beneath the diplomacy. Elena met the aliens' yellow eyes without flinching. For 15 years, the Galactic Union had been increasing pressure on Earth to grant them access to the Element 935 deposits. For 15 years, humanity had found diplomatic ways to refuse. Director Vazix, Earth understands the Union's interest, she replied smoothly. But as I hope to demonstrate today, our research suggests unique properties that require careful handling protocols. We're simply ensuring any arrangement would include appropriate safeguards. In the orbital meeting station above Earth, President Adama Richardson watched the laboratory feed with his cabinet. The elegant African man who had led Earth's government for 8 years leaned forward, his focus absolute. "So it begins," he said quietly, "after all these years of preparation." Defense Secretary Omar Khalid nodded grimly. "The Union has grown impatient. Their latest intelligence report suggests they're considering military options if today's negotiations fail." Richardson's face remained composed. "They've misunderstood our reluctance as weakness or simple resource hoarding." His deep voice carried absolute certainty. "They have no idea what they're asking for." Back in the laboratory, Elena was showing the aliens a simulation of how Element 935 integrated with human technology. The crystalline structure seemed to respond to the electrical patterns of human devices in ways that defied conventional physics. "As you can see," she explained, "the element forms a kind of resonance with our systems that enhances efficiency beyond theoretical limits." Ambassador Krell wasn't impressed. Yes, your engineers have certainly maximized its potential. All the more reason the Union believes this resource should benefit all species, not just humans." His upper eyes narrowed, a sign of suspicion among Vasirians. "Unless there's something about Element 935 you haven't shared with the Council." Elena exchanged a quick glance with Marcus. "They're pushing harder than expected. Ambassador, Earth has provided complete technical specifications as required by the Scientific Exchange Treaty, but theory and application are different matters." She hesitated, then added, "Perhaps a more direct demonstration would be helpful." Above in the control room, Admiral Torres stiffened. "She's deviating from the approved script," he said sharply into his comm unit. "Intervention Protocol Alpha." General Harper placed a restraining hand on his arm. "Wait, I know Elena. She's not going rogue. She's adapting." Her eyes never left the scene below. "Let's see where she's going with this." Elena motioned to Marcus, who retrieved a small device from a secure cabinet. It looked like an ordinary tablet computer, but its casing contained fine veins of Element 935 that glittered under the lab lights. "This is a standard neural interface device used by our scientists," she explained, placing it on the table between them. "With your permission, I'd like to demonstrate how Element 935 enhances its functionality." Shativa moved closer, clearly intrigued. "You use these devices for direct neural connection? Our research indicated humans were generations away from such technology." A ghost of a smile crossed Elena's face. "We've made some advances in recent years." The understatement of the century. She placed her hand on the device, which illuminated at her touch. The Element 935 components began to glow with a soft blue light. Instantly, the holographic display transformed, showing complex equations and models that shifted and evolved in real time. What you're seeing is a direct neural rendering of quantum probability calculations, Elena explained. The device translates neural patterns through element 935, allowing direct mental manipulation of complex data structures. Ambassador Krell leaned forward, all four eyes now fixed on the display. Impressive, but our scientists have achieved similar results with conventional quantum computing. Elena's fingers moved across the surface of the device, and suddenly the hologram expanded to fill the room. The aliens found themselves surrounded by a virtual solar system, stars and planets moving in perfect orbital harmony. Perhaps, but can your systems do this in real time, responding to thought alone with zero latency? In the presidential observation room, Secretary Khalid looked concerned. She's showing too much, Mr. President. The demonstration was supposed to be basic applications only. Richardson remained calm, his eyes fixed on the laboratory feed. Elena knows what she's doing. The Council needs to understand we're not just being difficult. They need to see enough to respect our position without seeing everything. On his private channel, Chief Science Advisor Dr. Amara Okafor's voice came through. Mr. President, Elena just signaled Phase 2. She believes the Drozek representative is suspicious, possibly here for more than diplomatic purposes. Richardson's expression darkened. The reptilian. Interesting. Keep the security teams on alert. In the lab, Director Vazix moved with surprising speed for his massive frame, approaching the table where the device lay. Fascinating technology, Dr. Reyes, may I? His scaled hand reached toward the tablet. Elena smoothly slid it away. I'm afraid not, Director. The neural interface is calibrated specifically for human neurological patterns. Other species attempting connection have experienced unfortunate side effects. Vazix's yellow eyes narrowed. Yet another unique compatibility between humans and element 935. Quite convenient. The tension in the room was palpable now. Elena stood her ground, meeting the reptilian's suspicious gaze. Not convenience, Director, just biochemistry. Ambassador Krell intervened, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid clicks. What my colleague means, Dr. Reyes, is that the Galactic Union finds it curious that humans, a relatively young species in interstellar terms, should have such unique affinity for a rare element. Some council members have theories about this coincidence. And here we go. Elena had been waiting for this moment, the real reason behind today's demonstration. Theories, Ambassador? I'd be interested to hear them. In the control room, Admiral Torres cursed under his breath. They know something, or at least they suspect. General Harper nodded grimly. It was inevitable. The question is how much they've pieced together. On the station above, President Richardson activated a secure channel. Dr. Okafor, prepare the contingency package. If they're probing this directly, we need to be ready for full disclosure protocol. The Chief Science Advisor's voice was steady but concerned. Sir, are you certain? Once revealed, we can't go back. No, Richardson admitted. But Elena's judgment has gotten us this far. If she believes they're ready to push, we need to be prepared to respond in kind. In the laboratory, Counselor Shativa had moved to a position between her colleagues, her fins rippling with what Elena recognized as agitation. What Ambassador Krell means, she said, her translator rendering her musical language into crisp English, is that our historical archives contain references to element 935 long before humans achieved space travel. Elena kept her expression neutral even as her heart rate accelerated. So they've found the ancient records. Historical references? That's fascinating, Counselor. From which civilization? Vazix gave a sound that the translator couldn't quite capture, somewhere between a growl and a laugh. From all of them, Dr. Reyes. Every founding species of the Galactic Union has ancient myths about a crystalline substance that fell from the stars, bringing knowledge and power, a substance remarkably similar to element 935. Ambassador Krell stepped forward. What Director Vazix is attempting to say, though with regrettable directness, is that the Council has authorized me to ask, did humanity truly discover element 935 only 30 years ago? Or have you been its custodians for much longer? The moment hung in the air. Elena could feel Marcus tensing beside her, ready for whatever came next. She took a deep breath and made the decision Earth's leadership had been preparing for since the element's true nature was understood. Ambassador, what would you say if I told you that element 935 isn't just a rare element? She touched the device again, and the holographic display changed to show the deep structure of the crystal lattice, revealing patterns that no natural process could create. What if I told you it isn't natural at all? In the control room, Admiral Torres stood rigid with shock. She's going off script completely now. This wasn't authorized. General Harper's eyes widened slightly, but she remained composed. No, this is Elena making a command decision based on their questions. They already know too much to be fed the cover story. She activated her comm. Mr. President, Dr. Reyes is moving to partial disclosure. Your authorization? There was only the briefest pause before Richardson's voice came through. Granted, support as needed. In the observation room, Richardson turned to his cabinet. It seems our timeline has accelerated. Prepare the full briefing materials for Phase 1 disclosure. He looked at the screen where the 3 alien representatives were visibly processing Elena's revelation. They were bound to discover the truth eventually. Better they hear it from us, on our terms. In the lab, the atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Ambassador Krell's 4 eyes were wide with shock. Are you suggesting element 935 is artificially created? That's impossible. Our scientists have analyzed its structure extensively. Elena nodded, and found anomalies they couldn't explain, perfectly regular patterns at the quantum level that defied natural formation processes, crystal lattices that seemed designed rather than formed. She touched the device again, and the holographic display zoomed deeper into the element structure, revealing nanoscale patterns that were unmistakably engineered. Element 935 isn't an element at all, she continued, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was revealing. It's a programmable quantum material created by an advanced civilization. We call them the predecessors. Shativa's fins had gone completely still, a sign of extreme focus in her species. You speak as if you know who created this material, as if you've communicated with them. Before Elena could answer, the lab door slid open. President Richardson himself walked in, flanked by Dr. Okafor and 2 security officers. The aliens turned in surprise, clearly not expecting Earth's leader to appear in person. We haven't communicated with them, Counselor Shativa, Richardson said calmly as he approached, because we are them, or rather their descendants. In orbit high above the Earth, the Galactic Union flagship Indomitable maintained its position. On its bridge, Supreme Commander Vazix of the Drozek military reviewed the feed from Director Vazix's hidden scanner. The massive reptilian's crest flared with interest as he watched the human president make his dramatic entrance. So, he rumbled to his second-in-command, the rumors were true. The humans know more about element 935 than they've admitted. Commander Drozek's scales shifted color slightly. a sign of concern. If what they're implying is correct, Supreme Commander, this changes our entire assessment of human civilization. Vazix's yellow eyes narrowed. It changes nothing. If element 935 is indeed a created technology rather than a natural resource, it only increases its value and our need to acquire it. On his private channel, a message flashed from the Drozek High Command. Proceed with caution, gather intelligence, avoid confrontation until fleet arrives. Vazix acknowledged the order with a claw tap, but his expression remained predatory. The Drozek Empire had not expanded to control a third of the Union's military by being cautious. Back in the laboratory, the three alien representatives were struggling to process Richardson's statement. Ambassador Krell recovered first, his translator working overtime to keep up with his rapid clicking. Mr. President, you're suggesting that humans are descended from an ancient advanced civilization, one that created element 935. His upper eyes narrowed in skepticism. Forgive me, but human history is well documented. Your species evolved on Earth and only achieved space travel within the last century. Richardson nodded to Dr. Okafor, who activated a secure data transfer to the aliens' devices. What you're receiving now is archaeological and genetic evidence we've compiled over the last 30 years, since we first rediscovered element 935 and began to understand what it truly was. Elena picked up the explanation, gesturing to the holographic display that now showed archaeological sites from around Earth. These discoveries were made at various locations on our planet. Ancient structures containing element 935 technology buried for thousands of years. Carbon dating places them at least 50,000 years before our recorded civilization began. Director Vazix's eyes darted between his datapad and the humans. If this is true, what happened to this advanced civilization? Why would your ancestors abandon such technology, only to evolve again from primitive beginnings? It was Dr. Okafor who answered, her West African accent giving her words a melodic quality. We believe it was deliberate. The evidence suggests our ancestors faced a crisis, possibly of their own making, and chose to start over, to return to Earth and begin again, without the technology that had brought them to the brink of destruction. Shativa's fins rippled with emotion. But that would mean erasing your own history, your own achievements. Why would any species choose such a path? President Richardson's expression was solemn. Because sometimes advancement without wisdom leads to catastrophe. Our ancestors left us one gift, however, hidden repositories of element 935, along with encoded information that we could only access once we reached a certain level of development again. In the control room, Admiral Torres and General Harper watched the exchange with a mixture of tension and relief. I never thought we'd reveal this much this soon, Torres said quietly. Harper's eyes never left the aliens. Look at their reactions. The Meribian seems genuinely fascinated. The Vasirian is skeptical but engaged. It's the Drozek that worries me. Torres nodded grimly. Vazix has been scanning the room since he arrived. Standard intelligence gathering tech, but more thorough than a simple diplomatic visit would warrant. On the Indomitable, Supreme Commander Vazix received another update from Director Vazix's hidden scanner. Interesting, he murmured. The humans claim to have repositories of this material hidden throughout their system. Commander Drozek reviewed the data. Could they be bluffing? Our surveys detected significant deposits only on Mars. Perhaps, Vazix replied. Or perhaps their detection shielding technology is more advanced than we realized. His clawed finger tapped thoughtfully on the command console. How long until our reinforcements arrive? The battle group will reach Earth orbit in approximately 6 hours, Supreme Commander. Vazix's mouth curved in what passed for a smile among the Drozek. Excellent. Continue monitoring. I want every piece of information these humans reveal. In the lab, the conversation had grown more technical. Dr. Okafor was explaining the unique properties that made element 935 so revolutionary. The material doesn't just conduct energy or information, she explained. It's programmable at the quantum level, capable of adapting to and enhancing any technology it interfaces with. But its most remarkable property is how it interacts with human consciousness. Ambassador Krell's skepticism was evident. You're suggesting this material responds to human thought? That stretches scientific credibility, Doctor. Elena stepped forward. Allow me to demonstrate. She placed her hand on the neural interface device again, but this time, instead of a holographic display, the small sample of element 935 in the containment field began to glow and shift, its crystalline structure reorganizing before their eyes. The element responds to specific neural patterns, patterns unique to human brains, she explained. We believe our ancestors engineered this compatibility as a safeguard, ensuring that only their descendants could fully utilize the technology when it was rediscovered. Shativa moved closer to the containment field, her scientific curiosity overcoming diplomatic caution. This is extraordinary, a material that recognizes its creators through genetic memory. Director Vazix had been unusually quiet, but now he stepped forward. If what you say is true, this is not merely a scientific curiosity or energy resource. This is a weapon. The atmosphere in the room chilled instantly. President Richardson's face hardened. Element 935 is many things, Director. Its military applications are perhaps the least interesting to us. Vazix gave the reptilian equivalent of a scoff. Please, Mr. President, a material that responds to thought, that can be programmed at the quantum level? The military applications are obvious. His yellow eyes gleamed, which is precisely why you've hidden its true nature from the Galactic Union. In orbit, Supreme Commander Vazix smiled coldly as he heard his agent's words through the feed. Now we come to the truth of the matter, he murmured. Prepare invasion protocols. As soon as the battle group arrives, we take control of all element 935 deposits in this system. Commander Drozek looked concerned. Supreme Commander, the Union Council has not authorized military action against Earth. Vazix dismissed the concern with a wave of his clawed hand. They will thank us when we present them with control of this technology. The Drozek Empire has always secured the Union's future through decisive action. Unknown to the Drozek commander, his transmission was being monitored. Deep within Earth's lunar defense complex, Lieutenant Commander Sofia Rodriguez watched the intercepted communications with growing alarm. They're planning an invasion, she reported to her superior. The Drozek have a battle group en route, estimated arrival 6 hours. General Harper's voice came through the secure channel. Understood. Continue monitoring. Alert defensive grid Omega, but maintain stealth protocols. No visible preparations. Rodriguez acknowledged the order, then turned to her team. You heard the general. Full defensive readiness, but keep it quiet. The Drozek think they're the only ones with tricks up their sleeves. Back in the laboratory, Ambassador Krell was attempting to diffuse the tension. What Director Vazix means is that technology this significant raises security concerns for all Council species, he said smoothly. The Union protocols for shared technological advancement were established precisely to prevent any single species from gaining overwhelming advantage. President Richardson's expression remained diplomatic but firm. Ambassador, Earth understands these concerns. That's precisely why we've moved carefully with element 935. Its integration with human neural patterns makes it potentially dangerous in the wrong hands, even our own. Dr. Okafor stepped forward, activating a new display. We've documented numerous cases where non-human interaction with activated Element 935 technology has resulted in system failures or unpredictable outcomes. The neural compatibility appears to be a fundamental safety feature built into the material itself. Shativa's fins rippled with interest. Fascinating. A technology designed to be used only by those with the correct genetic markers. Her large eyes focused on Elena. But surely your scientists have found ways to modify this restriction, to allow other species to safely interact with it. Elena and Richardson exchanged a quick glance. We have, Elena admitted. In controlled laboratory settings, we've developed interfaces that allow for limited cross-species compatibility. But the process is complex and still experimental. In the orbital meeting station, Secretary Khalid was conferring urgently with military leaders who had just received Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez's report. 6 hours until a Drozek battle group arrives, he summarized grimly. They are not here for negotiations. Admiral Torres's face appeared on the screen. Mr. Secretary, we need to evacuate the President immediately. The Drozek are not known for their diplomatic subtlety. Khalid shook his head. The President was clear. No visible defensive preparations that might escalate the situation. He believes the demonstration will convince the Union representatives of our goodwill. General Harper's expression was skeptical. And if it doesn't? A thin smile crossed Khalid's face. Then the Drozek will learn why humanity has been so careful with Element 935. In the laboratory, the discussion had moved to practical matters. President Richardson was outlining Earth's proposal. What we're offering is a controlled technology exchange, he explained. Earth will provide Element 935 enhanced systems designed for safe use by all species, along with training and support. In return, we ask for recognition of Earth's sovereignty over natural deposits of Element 935 in our system. Ambassador Krell's upper eyes narrowed. This is significantly less than the mining rights the Union was expecting to negotiate. Richardson remained firm. The situation has changed, Ambassador. We're no longer discussing a natural resource but an ancestral technology with profound implications. Earth takes its responsibility as custodian of this technology very seriously. Director Vazix made a sound that his translator didn't attempt to interpret, clearly one of displeasure. The Drozek Empire cannot accept these terms. Element 935 is too valuable to remain under the control of a single species regardless of ancestral claims. The tension in the room spiked. Security personnel shifted almost imperceptibly into more alert positions. Elena watched Vazix carefully, noting the subtle movements of his hand toward a device concealed in his ceremonial garments. Director, she said calmly, I understand your concern. Perhaps another demonstration would help clarify why we've been so cautious. She nodded to Marcus, who activated a sequence on his tablet. A section of the laboratory wall slid open, revealing a secure chamber beyond. Inside was a larger sample of Element 935, this one the size of a human fist and pulsing with inner light. This is an active matrix of Element 935, Elena explained, fully programmed and responding to the neural patterns in this room. As the aliens watched, the crystal began to shift and change, its internal structure reorganizing in response to unseen commands. Patterns of light danced within its depths, forming complex, ever-changing geometries. Currently, it's responding primarily to human neural patterns, Elena continued. But watch what happens when we introduce foreign neural signatures. She nodded to Marcus again, who pressed another control. The crystal's glow suddenly intensified, its patterns becoming erratic. Small arcs of energy began to leap from its surface, and the containment field around it visibly strengthened. The material perceives non-compatible neural patterns as potential threats, Elena explained as the demonstration was safely contained. This reaction can range from simple non-cooperation to active defense mechanisms, depending on the nature and intensity of the foreign input. Ambassador Krell had stepped back involuntarily. You're saying Element 935 actively rejects non-human control? Not exactly, Doctor, Okafor interjected. It's more accurate to say it requires compatible neural patterns to function safely, which is why we've been developing interface technology to bridge this compatibility gap. On the Indomitable, Supreme Commander Vazix watched the demonstration with growing concern. This complicates matters, he admitted reluctantly. If the material truly rejects non-human neural patterns, direct seizure may prove problematic. Commander Drozek reviewed the data from Varex's scanner. The humans appear to be telling the truth about this aspect at least. The energy readings from that sample are unlike anything in our database. Vazix's eyes narrowed in thought. Then we adapt our strategy. If we cannot take the element directly, we take the humans who can control it. His clawed finger tapped a command into his console. Update the battle group's orders. Priority targets are now human scientists and control facilities. In the Lunar Defense Complex, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez intercepted the new transmission. General Harper, the Drozek have changed their strategy. They're now targeting key personnel for capture, specifically those who work with Element 935. Harper's face hardened on the screen. Understood. Implement Protocol Phantom Shield. All key personnel to secure locations. In the laboratory, Elena felt her secure communicator vibrate against her wrist, the signal for an imminent threat. She maintained her professional demeanor as she continued the demonstration, but her eyes met Richardson's briefly. The subtle nod he gave told her he'd received the same alert. Ambassador Krell, Counselor Shativa, President Richardson said smoothly. Perhaps you'd like to see the practical applications we've developed for safe cross-species use. Dr. Chen can show you our latest interface prototypes. The diplomatic move was clear, separating the two more reasonable aliens from Director Vazix. Elena remained with Vazix as Marcus led the others to a different section of the lab. Director, Elena said once they were relatively alone, I sense you have specific concerns about our presentation. Varex's yellow eyes studied her with cold calculation. Not concerns, Doctor, observations. Your species has concealed the true nature of Element 935 for decades while integrating it into your defense systems, your communications, your very infrastructure. His scaled hand moved slightly closer to his concealed device. The Drozek Empire finds this disturbing. Elena maintained eye contact, her voice steady. We concealed nothing that was safe to share. The Union has known about Element 935 since we discovered the Mars deposits. What we kept private was information that could be dangerous in the wrong hands. Dangerous? Varex's translator conveyed a hint of mockery. Or simply too valuable to share? Both, Elena admitted frankly. Director, you've seen the demonstration. Element 935 responds unpredictably to non-human neural patterns. Would you have had us release technology that could malfunction catastrophically in alien hands? That would have been irresponsible. On the Indomitable, Vazix received an urgent communication. Supreme Commander, we've detected unusual energy readings from Earth's lunar installation. They may be activating defensive systems. Vazix hissed in frustration. Have we been discovered? Unknown, but probability is high. Our communications may have been intercepted. The commander made a quick decision. Move up the timeline. Signal Director Vazix to secure the human scientists. We move now. In the lab, Vazix received the signal through his concealed device. Without warning, he moved with the surprising speed of his species, grabbing Elena's arm and pulling her toward him. A small weapon appeared in his other hand, pointed directly at her head. "Nobody move," he snarled, his translator struggling to convey the full menace in his voice. "This discussion is now under Drozek jurisdiction." Security personnel immediately drew their weapons, but President Richardson raised a hand to hold them back. "Director Vazix, this is a serious diplomatic breach. Release Dr. Reyes immediately." Vazix's weapon remained steady. "This woman will accompany me to my ship, along with all research data on Element 935. The Drozek Empire is claiming this technology in the name of galactic security." From across the room, Ambassador Krell's voice was sharp with shock. "Director, you have no authority for this action. The Union Council has not authorized any seizure of Earth technology or personnel." "The Council moves too slowly," Vazix replied without looking away from Richardson. "They debate while humans consolidate power. The Drozek have always protected the Union's interests through decisive action." Elena remained remarkably calm in the reptilian's grip. Her eyes met Richardson's, and the slightest nod passed between them. Slowly she raised her free hand, on which she wore what appeared to be a simple silver bracelet. "Director Vazix," she said calmly, "I'm afraid you've misunderstood something fundamental about Element 935. The bracelet on her wrist began to glow with the same blue light they had seen in the Element 935 samples. Vazix looked down at it, momentary confusion crossing his reptilian features. "You see," Elena continued, "when I said Element 935 responds to human neural patterns, that wasn't the complete truth." The bracelet's glow intensified. "What I should have said is that it responds to specific human neural patterns, like mine." With a sudden pulse of blue light, Vazix found his weapon hand frozen in place, surrounded by a shimmering field of energy. His grip on Elena's arm weakened involuntarily, allowing her to step calmly away. "What is this?" he growled, struggling against the invisible force that now held him immobile. Elena adjusted her lab coat calmly. "Element 935 integrated directly into neural command systems, something we developed after your empire began positioning stealth observation satellites around our outer planets 3 years ago." On the Indomitable, alarms suddenly blared across the bridge. "Supreme Commander," the tactical officer called out in panic, "multiple energy signatures activating around Earth and its moon." Vazix rushed to the main view screen, just in time to see dozens of previously invisible defense platforms shimmer into existence, surrounding his ship in a perfect containment pattern. Each platform glowed with the distinctive blue light of activated Element 935. "Impossible," he breathed. "Our scans showed nothing of this scale." His communications officer looked up in shock. "Supreme Commander, we're receiving a transmission from all of the platforms simultaneously." "On screen," Vazix ordered, his voice hoarse. The image that appeared showed General Harper standing in what appeared to be an advanced command center. "Drozek vessel Indomitable," she said calmly. "This is General Sarah Harper of Earth Defense Force. Your vessel is now contained within a defensive grid powered by Element 935 technology. Your weapons and engines have been neutralized. Suggest you stand down and await further instructions." Vazix's scales darkened with rage. "This is an act of war against the Drozek Empire. Our battle group will arrive within hours, and then—" Harper cut him off with a raised hand. "Your battle group has been intercepted by the Third Earth Fleet at the edge of our system. They have already stood down and are being escorted to holding positions. Her expression remained professional but firm. This was not the outcome we wanted, Supreme Commander, but we have prepared for it nonetheless. In the laboratory, Ambassador Krell and Counselor Shativa watched in stunned silence as security personnel took Director Vazix into custody. The reptilian continued to struggle against the energy field that held him, but to no avail. "Mr. President," Ambassador Krell said finally, his 4 eyes blinking in rapid succession, "I assure you that the Drozek actions were not authorized by the Union Council. This is a grave diplomatic incident that will be addressed." Richardson nodded gravely. "I believe you, Ambassador, which is why Earth will respond with proportional restraint. The Drozek vessels will be detained temporarily but released unharmed once the situation is fully understood." Shativa stepped forward, her fins rippling with what humans had learned to recognize as deep emotional impact. "All this time," she said softly, "while we thought we were evaluating you for full council membership, you were capable of this level of technology." Dr. Okafor smiled gently. "Capable, yes, but capability isn't the same as wisdom, Counselor. Earth has been careful with element 935 precisely because we understand its power." Richardson gestured to the conference room adjacent to the laboratory. "I believe it's time for a more comprehensive discussion about humanity's place in the Galactic Union, and about the true history and potential of element 935. As the diplomatic party moved into the conference room, Elena remained behind momentarily with Marcus. "That was closer than we planned," he said quietly. Elena nodded, looking at the containment field where the element 935 sample still pulsed with inner light. "They still don't understand what they were actually asking for," she replied. "Element 935 isn't just technology our ancestors left behind. It's technology they deliberately locked away until we were ready to use it responsibly." Marcus glanced at the bracelet on her wrist, now dormant again. "And are we ready? Really?" Elena's expression was thoughtful as she watched President Richardson beginning the new diplomatic discussions through the glass partition. "I think today proves that we're getting there. We had the power to do much more than just neutral." Elena's expression was thoughtful as she watched President Richardson beginning the new diplomatic discussions through the glass partition. "I think today proves that we're getting there. We had the power to do much more than just neutralize their ships. We could have disabled the entire Drozek fleet, but we chose restraint." Marcus nodded slowly. "Let's hope the Council appreciates the difference." He glanced at his data tablet where reports were streaming in from Earth's defense network. "The Drozek battle group has been contained. No casualties on either side." "That's what matters," Elena said quietly. "Power understood but not abused." She straightened her lab coat and moved toward the conference room. "Now comes the hard part, real diplomacy." In the Lunar Defense Complex, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez watched as the Drozek ships were escorted into holding positions. The massive vessels, designed for intimidation as much as combat, looked strangely vulnerable now, surrounded by the previously hidden Earth defense platforms. "I still can't believe it worked," her second-in-command said, staring at the tactical display. "Years of preparation, and they never detected a thing." Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. "Element 935's quantum masking properties exceed even our initial projections. The platforms were in plain sight the whole time. The Drozek just couldn't perceive them." General Harper's face appeared on her command screen. "Good work, Commander. Maintain vigilance, but dial back defensive posture to level 2. We want to de-escalate now that the immediate threat is contained." "Understood, General." Rodriguez hesitated briefly. Ma'am, do you think this changes everything? Our relationship with the Union, I mean. Harper's weathered face showed the subtle signs of someone calculating complex probabilities. Everything, number, but it certainly changes the conversation. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Supreme Commander Vazix sat rigidly in his command chair, yellow eyes fixed on the Earth defense platforms visible through the view screen. His scales had darkened to a dull gray, the Drozek equivalent of pallor. How did we miss this? He demanded of no one in particular. Our intelligence indicated nothing of this scale or sophistication. Commander Drozek approached cautiously. Supreme Commander, we've completed our analysis of the defense grid. The platforms appear to be incorporating some form of quantum state masking. Our sensors registered them as normal space until they were activated. Vazix hissed softly. Element 935 technology, more advanced than anything we imagined. His clawed hand clenched on the armrest of his chair. The High Command will not be pleased. Sir, his communications officer interrupted, we're receiving a transmission from Director Vazix. Vazix straightened immediately. On screen, the reptilian diplomat appeared, standing stiffly in what was clearly a detention room, though comfortable by human standards. Supreme Commander, Vazix began formally, my mission has failed. The humans' control of element 935 exceeds our intelligence estimates by orders of magnitude. We've noticed, Vazix replied dryly. What is your status? I am being treated according to diplomatic protocols, Vazix answered. But the humans have made it clear that my actions constitute a serious breach. They're demanding a formal apology from the Empire before I will be released. Vazix's crest rose slightly, a sign of indignation. The Empire does not apologize. With respect, Supreme Commander, Vazix said carefully, I recommend flexibility in this instance. The humans have shown only a fraction of their capabilities. My scans before capture detected element 935 integration throughout their infrastructure at levels we never anticipated. On Vazix's private command screen, a message flashed from Drozek High Command. Situation assessment required. Immediate report. The commander stared at it for a long moment before responding. Recommend diplomatic resolution. Military option no longer viable. It was perhaps the first time in his long military career that Vazix had recommended retreat. The thought settled uncomfortably in his warrior's mind. In the conference room on Orion Station, President Richardson had taken a seat at the head of the table, with Ambassador Krell and Counselor Shativa on either side. Dr. Okafor and Elena joined them, along with several key members of Earth's diplomatic corps. Let's begin again, Richardson said calmly, with full transparency this time. Ambassador Krell's four eyes blinked in rapid sequence, a sign of distress in his species. Mr. President, I must formally apologize for Director Vazix's actions. He acted without council authorization and will be recalled immediately. Richardson nodded acknowledgement. Earth accepts your apology, Ambassador. We understand the Drozek often operate independently. Shativa's fins rippled with what humans had come to recognize as diplomatic caution. While I join in condemning Director Vazix's methods, the underlying concern remains valid. Element 935, as you've now demonstrated, is far more significant than previously disclosed. This raises legitimate security questions for all Union species. Fair enough, Richardson conceded, which is why we're prepared to offer a new framework for cooperation. He nodded to Dr. Okafor, who activated the holographic display at the center of the table. Three-dimensional schematics appeared, sophisticated devices clearly incorporating Element 935 technology, but with modifications that hadn't been seen before. These are neural interface adapters, Dr. Okafor explained, designed specifically to allow non-human species to safely interact with Element 935 technology. We've developed versions calibrated for all major council species. Krell leaned forward, his upper eyes widening in surprise. You've already created these? But you said the technology was experimental. Elena smiled slightly. A diplomatic understatement, Ambassador. We've been developing cross-species interfaces for over a decade. The prototypes are stable and tested. Then why not share them before? Shativa asked, her large eyes fixed on the schematics with scientific interest. President Richardson's expression became more serious. Because Element 935 is not merely a technological resource, it's a responsibility. Our ancestors understood this. It's why they locked the technology away until we reached a certain level of development. Dr. Okafor continued the explanation. The neural interfaces work, but they require careful calibration for each species' unique neurological patterns. Used improperly, they could cause significant harm to both the user and the technology. What my colleagues are trying to say, Elena added, is that we needed to be certain any species accessing Element 935 technology would use it responsibly. Today's events with the Drozek have highlighted why that caution was necessary. In orbit above Earth, communication officers on the Drozek battle group vessels received unexpected orders from their high command. Stand down. Diplomatic solution authorized. The captains of the 15 warships looked at the orders with disbelief. The Drozek Empire rarely retreated from a show of force, but the evidence before them was undeniable. Earth possessed technological capabilities far beyond what they had been led to believe. On the flagship of the Earth's Third Fleet, Admiral Chang watched the Drozek vessels power down their weapon systems with quiet satisfaction. Sometimes the best victories are the ones where no shots are fired, he commented to his executive officer. Do you think they'll stand down completely, sir? The officer asked. Chang's weathered face remained impassive. The Drozek understand power, if nothing else. They've just discovered they're not the biggest predator in this particular ocean. They'll adapt their strategy accordingly. In the conference room, the diplomatic discussions had taken a more constructive turn. Ambassador Krell had moved from shock to pragmatic negotiation. These neural interfaces, he said, examining the specifications carefully, would allow controlled access to Element 935 technology for all Council species. Within safety parameters, yes, Elena confirmed. Different species would have different levels of compatibility, of course, but the basic functionality would be universal. Shativa had been studying the molecular structure of Element 935 displayed in the hologram. This programming capability, it's unlike anything in our scientific records. You could revolutionize everything from medicine to space travel. Richardson nodded. Which is precisely why we're proposing a new cooperative framework. Earth will establish an Element 935 research consortium, open to scientists from all Council species. Together, we can explore applications that benefit everyone. And the existing deposits, Krell asked pointedly, the Mars colony, remain under Earth jurisdiction, Richardson said firmly, but we're prepared to negotiate fair distribution of processed Element 935 technology to all Council members. In the Lunar Defense Complex, Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez received updated orders from General Harper. Begin standing down the defense grid, Commander, one platform at a time in non-threatening sequence. Understood, General. Rodriguez hesitated before adding, the Drozek might interpret this as weakness. Harper's smile was barely perceptible. They won't. We've made our point. Now we demonstrate that humans know the difference between showing strength and flexing muscles unnecessarily. On the Indomitable, Supreme Commander Vazix watched as the Earth defense platforms began deactivating, folding back into their quantum-masked state one by one. "They're standing down," he noted with surprise. "A gesture of good faith," Commander Drozek suggested, "or confidence." Vazix's expression was unreadable. Perhaps both. He turned to his communications officer. "Send a message to Earth Defense Command. The Drozek Empire acknowledges their technological achievement and respects their territorial sovereignty." The words almost pained him physically, but Vazix was nothing if not a pragmatist. The humans had just changed the balance of power in the sector. Adaptation was necessary for survival. Back in the laboratory, as the diplomatic meeting continued in the adjacent conference room, Marcus approached Elena with his tablet. "The Drozek have officially backed down," he reported quietly. "Their high command has issued formal apologies for Director Varex's actions." Elena's eyebrows rose slightly. "That's unprecedented. The Drozek never apologize. They do when faced with technology that can neutralize their entire fleet without firing a shot." Marcus glanced at the small sample of element 935, still glowing softly in its containment field. "You know, when we first discovered what element 935 could really do, I was terrified. That kind of power could corrupt absolutely," Elena finished for him. "That's why our ancestors locked it away. They must have faced that same temptation, to use its power to dominate rather than protect." Marcus looked thoughtful. "Do you think we'll ever know what happened? Why they gave up all this advancement and started over?" Before Elena could answer, Dr. Okafor appeared at the laboratory door. "Elena, Marcus, the President is requesting your presence. The negotiations have taken an interesting turn." In the conference room, Elena found Ambassador Krell and President Richardson deep in discussion, with Shativa adding occasional observations. The atmosphere had changed dramatically from the tense standoff earlier. "Dr. Reyes," Richardson said as she entered, "Ambassador Krell has made an interesting proposal regarding element 935 research." The Vasirian diplomat's 4 eyes focused on her. "Doctor, my species has been studying quantum physics for millennia. While we lack your neural compatibility with element 935, our theoretical understanding of quantum structures is quite advanced. I believe a true collaboration could yield benefits neither of our species could achieve alone." Elena considered this carefully. "That's actually a compelling point, Ambassador. Our practical applications have sometimes outpaced our theoretical framework." Shativa's fins rippled with excitement. "And my people's biochemical expertise could help develop more effective neural interfaces for non-human species." Dr. Okafor nodded thoughtfully. "A genuine scientific consortium, then. Not just token cooperation, but true collaborative research." President Richardson watched the scientists with quiet satisfaction. "I believe we're looking at the beginning of a new era in interspecies cooperation." He turned to Ambassador Krell. "One based on mutual respect rather than competition or domination." The Vasirian diplomat's upper eyes narrowed slightly. "A noble sentiment, Mr. President, but I must ask, if today's events had unfolded differently, if the Drozek had succeeded in their attempted show of force, would you have used element 935's full capabilities against them?" A heavy silence fell over the room. Elena found herself holding her breath, waiting for Richardson's answer. The President's expression was solemn. "Ambassador, when our ancestors hid element 935 technology in repositories around Earth, they left warnings as well as gifts. The most prominent among them translates roughly to, 'Power without wisdom destroys its wielders.' He paused, choosing his words carefully. We believe they learned this lesson through bitter experience. We've tried to honor their wisdom by showing restraint. You didn't answer my question, Krell noted quietly. Richardson met the alien's four-eyed gaze directly. No, I didn't, and that ambiguity is perhaps humanity's best protection. The Drozek and others who might consider similar actions must always wonder what we might do if truly threatened, while hoping never to find out. On the station's observation deck, hours later, Elena stood alone looking out at the Earth below. The blue-green planet turned slowly against the backdrop of stars, peaceful and seemingly ordinary from this distance. It was hard to believe that just today, the balance of power in the galactic political landscape had shifted dramatically. Beautiful, isn't it? The voice belonged to Counselor Shativa, who had approached silently on her soft-footed gait. Elena nodded. Sometimes I think our ancestors chose to return there because, despite everything they'd achieved among the stars, they couldn't create anything more perfect. The Meribian moved to stand beside her, her large eyes reflecting the Earth's light. My people have a saying, wisdom often requires the courage to begin again. Her translator conveyed the gentle melody of her native language. Perhaps your ancestors possessed such courage. Perhaps, Elena agreed. Or perhaps they simply recognized a dead end when they saw one. Shativa's fins rippled thoughtfully. The Council archives contain fragments of records from that era, what we call the First Expansion. Most species believe those ancient spacefaring beings were visitors from another galaxy. No one suspected they might be human ancestors. History is full of surprises, Elena said with a small smile, and often the truth is hiding in plain sight.